Episode 7 of Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, wasted no time in dispelling one critical question that we've had over the last 2 weeks, and that is, what happened 21 years ago? Yes, in the conversation between Miorine and Prospera, they flat out just said it. Yes, that was when this whole thing went down. That's when the Vanitas Institute was taken down. That's when the whole thing with the restrictions around the Gundams was in place. So yes, episode 0, the prelude, was 21 years ago. And so we pretty much confirmed that aspect of it, that there's a time issue here. That, again, going back to what I talked about last week and the whole idea of the aerial theory, that either Eri was put under cryo sleep, there's a time difference there, or, yes, Suletta is not Eri. And I think that's what we're going to come to. I think it's all but confirmed at this point. But, yes, fantastic episode. Episode 7 was absolutely fantastic. Now, I do have my misgivings about certain aspects that we'll get into, but I think overall the cool thing about episode 7 is that we just opened up a lot of question marks, a lot of factions, and a lot of question marks as to what is the goal of each individual person and essentially groups. But yes, opening up this episode, we obviously have Peel Industries Technologies is being questioned by the Bennett Group, but not the entire Bennett Group. Specifically, Sarius Zanelli, and I think Vim Jertik was the other person that was in there. So Jeturk and Vanel are both in there questioning Peel. And they're not saying that you're in trouble because you have a Gundam, and we obviously know that you've been developing, it's confirmed at this point. And Peel is just like, yeah, sounds right. You're right, you got us. But Zanelli says specifically, we want to use you. We need to find out. We're willing to overlook this if you help us with our plan. And their plan is to find out what Delling is doing. Apparently Delling is up to something, and they want to flush him out. So they're going to use the fact that Pell has a Gundam to get that situated, which it seems like the group of Pell is like, yeah, sure, let's do it. From here, we cut over to Suletta, and obviously she's upset because Elan's gone. She hasn't seen Elan this entire time, and Miorine's trying to figure out, why you worry about other people so much. Again, we're getting the sense that Miorine only cares about her goal and what she's doing. She doesn't like other people that help others. And we got a sense of that before with this whole conversation between Miorine and Suletta when Suletta was telling her dreams of bringing people to Mercury. Miorine doesn't like this idea of selflessness. She doesn't get it. Which, yes, we get a little bit of tsundere action later on when we realize that Miorine goes with Suletta to this party, and Shadiq's like, you've changed, Miorine. Normally you only think about yourself, but here you are with Suletta. Again, Miorine's trying to give this facade that she doesn't like it, or at least her past self doesn't like that, but she's slowly breaking out of that shell. But yes, they get invited to a party. Now, this party is called an incubation party, which is where a lot of up-and-coming startup companies will come to this party, and they'll, give their ideas of what they want to create for a company, and then a lot of investors will pay into them. And if they reach their goal, they become a party or a group within the Bennett Group. And Suletta wants to go here because, yes, she thinks that Elan's going to be there because the 3 branches typically show up here. And yes, we get the answer to what's happening with Elan. Apparently, the Peel Group is not developed a new replacement for Elan quite yet, so they need him, the actual Elan, to step up and continue what they're planning with Suletta. We get a little character moments with the introduction of the party, though. I love Suletta gets a dress from Miorine, talks about how it's super tight in the chest, and Miorine's obviously really upset about this idea. Additionally, Nika shows up with them, and she offered Nika a dress, which kind of feels bad. Like, man, why couldn't we have Nika get a dress? But no, Nika shows up with them. Now, I want to get this out of the way now, because it's really the only thing that we really see from Nika during this entire thing. Nika, at some point after coming there with them, she ends up breaking off from the group. And she ends up getting confronted by Shadiq. And Shadiq helps her because she's not sure how to act around the table and stuff like that because she's an earthling and whatever. And Shadiq hands her a plate. And she's like, thank you. I wasn't really sure what to do. But additionally, Shadiq says, no, I'm the one that should be thanking you. So it seems as if Shadiq is working with Nika. So big question marks around that. What is Nika doing with Shadiq? Do they know each other from the past? Is Nika purposely doing things for Shadiq? Because we knew from I think episode 2 that Shadiq was supposed to be looking into Suletta. And we really haven't seen him make any moves. Typically, he's just allowing these duels to happen. Yes, you can argue that some of them he allowed when he shouldn't have, at least according to some people, specifically Gyul's brother. He was upset that he allowed one of the duels. But it seems to indicate that, for me, my prediction here is that Shadiq is essentially influencing Nika to push Suletta into certain situations. Maybe he was the reason why Nika pulled Suletta into the Earthian house. I really hope not. Like, I really like Nika, and I don't want her to be like some scheming person behind the scene. But again, we technically haven't seen that Shadiq himself is bad. I would argue that at least this episode is kind of showing us that not any side is particularly the bad side, and there's a lot of backstabbing happening with the Benerit group. And you can see that because all that backstabbing is happening, there could come a time where Shadiq and his father might be an asset. I think Shadiq's father was the only one that from the prologue looked like he was uneasy about what Delling was doing. But it seemed like he was overdone. Like somehow Delling pushed him to the side and enacted all this stuff. He looked uneasy. So I can see possibly Shadiq's father being an asset to this entire thing. But yeah, again, they come in there, like the little jabs that Miorine's given to Suletta. She's super nervous about the situation, and Miorine's just yelling at her, stand up straight. She's like, hi. You can tell that Suletta is not very used to these situations. But yes, additionally, another scene that we got with Shadiq is that he confronts Miorine and Suletta, and this is where we find out that, yes, Miorine and Shadiq have some sort of knowledge of each other, that they used to come to these incubation parties quite often. And again, this is where he's establishing, Miorine, you've changed a lot. Like, normally you wouldn't do this kind of stuff for Suletta. Like, why are you here? And she's like, well, I'm here because Suletta needs me here. I don't want to be here. And she's like, well, you're doing something for somebody else. That's different. So we're getting a little sense of that change in Miorine. And this is where we get probably the most interesting scene in this entire episode, in which point Prospera shows up and Suletta's like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here. You said that you were busy. Well, I got off early, so I decided to drop by. And yes, she kind of shoos Suletta away. And yes, has a nice, interesting conversation with Miorine. And yes, kind of pointing out the fact that Miorine doesn't like her father. Kind of prodding at her about that. You know, you showed up at this meeting, you said all this stuff about how you hate your father and stuff, that he's a dirtbag. Tell me more, basically. But this gets into some long conversation where she's talking about, yes, your father was the reason that the Vanitas Institute went down 21 years ago. He's the hero that banned the Gundams. So why do you hate your father? So she gets in this whole spiel about how, you know, he always makes decisions for me. He doesn't listen to me. He looks down upon me. And it also kind of insinuates something happened with her mother. It shows this little brief scene. I'm assuming it's her mother. Somebody's in a casket. Miorine's standing at the side of it, very younger, and then her father's walking away. So she doesn't like her father for those reasons. But I like this because this is a nice jab and a really good building point from Miorine, because Prospera points out the obvious. You hate your father so much, but yet who's the one that's living inside of the chairman's office, dressed up all fancy, all nice accessories that you have, receiving respect because of the position of your father? You take a lot of benefits from your father despite the fact that you hate him so much. Essentially, Prospera is saying, walk for yourself. And yes, I do realize that this is probably a lot of Prospera manipulating Miorine to use her. I fully acknowledge that. I don't accept Prospera doing anything out of the good nature of her own heart. But again, she's putting these really heavy jabs at Miorine under the guise that she's wanting to learn more about this bride of her daughters. Nice move. But yeah, this all gets kind of interrupted by Suletta being clumsy and dropping stuff. And at the same time, we get to see a brief shot of Guyo's brother. He is currently working out some sort of plan that, yes, Jeturk, his father, is plotting. The real Elan shows up and takes Suletta off to the side. At the same time, Delling is showing up to the party, and yes, I'm a little bit let down by this. Yes, obviously we have this scene where Suletta is meeting with the real Elan, and he's obviously very different. He's very nice, he's very charming, he's offering up his apologies because he disappeared for so long. He's claiming that the Pale Technologies had a lot of issues after that fight, so he took a little bit of a leave. And Suletta doesn't catch it. I was really expecting that Suletta immediately would tell that it's not the real Elan, the Elan that she knows. Because again, his demeanor and everything is so different. Before he was super cold, very quiet, very no emotion, and now he's charming and smiling and stuff. And yes, she catches the fact that he smiles. So I guess you can probably see that maybe he just changed after their experience together, but it was a little bit of a letdown. I thought she was going to catch it really quickly. But yeah, this all leads up to the big master plan that they obviously set up. Elan takes Suletta to the stage, and the Pale Technologies comes on the stage, and they start talking about, yes, after this big duel, we want to praise our two leading members of the school. They raise up Suletta and Elan, but they start questioning Suletta as she's on the stage, obviously prodding at her to their goal, which was, Elan said something about you having some sort of experience while you were fighting. He felt like you were entangled, and Suletta's like, yeah, I felt the same thing. Aha, we got it. Because we now know that our machine is a Gundam, they fully admit it. That means that Ariel is a Gundam too. So that was all their plan, was to basically take the fall. And so, yes, as Jet Turk is off to the side, talking about, oh my gosh, you have Gundams? Well, what are you going to do about it? And Pale Technology's like, okay, yes, we admit it. We're going to destroy it. We're also going to get rid of the development team within Pils. They're basically taking the fall, all for Jet Turk and Pale technically together, to call out Suletta and Ariel. So they're taking the fall just to prove that they have a Gundam as well. And yes, obviously, Suetta's like, no, that's not true. It can't be a Gundam. Ariel's not a Gundam. But she can't dispute this fact that they're pointing out. This phenomenon only happens when two Gundams of gun formats come close to each other. And yes, as Suetta's calling out for her mother, this can't be right, Mom, yelling, I feel so bad. She's on this stage and she's just crying out for her mother. At the same time, we see that Prospera is outside with Jet Turk's son, not Gyul, the other one. And he's saying that specifically, my father wants to renegotiate our terms. We technically had Jet Turk, Vim Jet Turk before talk to Prospera. Again, she was using the fact that she knew that he was trying to take out Delling against him. I'm guessing that's the terms that he was looking to renegotiate. But obviously, he's running to renegotiate because he now knows she's going down. So he's using this whole situation about Shin Technologies going down to essentially try to use her in some way. But again, that doesn't work out because Miorine steps on the stage. We can't let this technology go. It defeated your best, and it's obviously not a Gundam. Well, she doesn't say that it's specifically not a Gundam. She's saying it's a machine that is very advanced, and it's obviously good because it took down your best. And additionally, you're claiming that it's a Gundam because it can kill people. Suetta's right here. She's perfectly fine. So her whole point is, okay, well, she's like, Suletta, don't worry, I'll protect you. Everybody's asking, why are you up on the stage? Because my bride is being attacked. But no, she specifically says that PL Technologies falling down and getting rid of all this technology, getting rid of the development groups, getting rid of the machine is going to cost them $120 billion. I'm going to double that and ask for everybody to fund her to create essentially a merging. M&A is going to consume PL Technologies and Shinsei Technologies and bring it into one thing and call it Gundam. Why call it Gundam Inc.? But essentially, and here's where I'm starting to get a little confusion as to why this would be allowed. She's essentially saying and openly admitting we're calling it Gundam, but our focus is going to be on complying with the restrictions and focus on bioethical issues. She's essentially wanting to recreate Vanitas, Ox Earth, the original gun-armed research. She's wanting to re-spark that. But unfortunately, again, she's not getting the funding. Nobody wants to step forward until she finally recalls what Prospera told her about discarding her pride as being the president's daughter, runs up to the president, says, I need your help. I am coming to you to help me. Your influence, be a part of this. And he says, the curse will never leave. The curse around Gundam will never leave. There's no running away now. And he offers 3%. And that was enough for everybody to go, well, the president wants it. We all want it too. So everybody jumps to it. So successfully creates M&A, Gund Inc. Technologies, whatever. Yeah, and that all wraps up with Prospera walking up to Suletta and Miorine, congratulating them. And then, yes, Suletta saying, it's not a Gundam though. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, Suletta. It's actually a Gundam. So they're like, yeah, we're not hiding it anymore. Now, I don't know if it's just Prospera and Miorine knowing it's a Gundam and talking and accepting it and making it clear to Suletta, or if, again, in the brighter scope of things, they're accepting that its existence. That's the thing that I'm not quite sure about, because it seems like all signs are pointing to this is a Gundam. And they never outright said this is not a Gundam. Suletta was saying it's not a Gundam, but everybody was accepting that this is a Gundam. And they're even calling it Gunarm Inc. So it's like everybody there and the investors and stuff are accepting that she is going to be developing and working on a Gundam. Now, I guess I have to go back and check the prologue. I guess it could be the fact that the original agreement, the original restrictions that were in play was specifically Gundam technology, which again, they're calling it that technology. Anything that's inhumane that would affect the pilot. So maybe they're getting around it in the idea that they're saying, specifically, this won't affect the agreement and the restrictions that they placed upon development because we're not going to have those bioethical issues. It will not affect our pilots. Yes, we're going to use the technology. Yes, we're going to use Gundams, but the original agreement for the effects on people themselves will not exist here. So thus, we're good. We're using names and everything, but we're good because we're not at the core issue, which was the effects on the pilots. So allow us to figure that out, which is weird because that was exactly what the Vanitas Institute was doing. But yes, they technically did have harmful machines there. They a lot of people were piloting Gundam format machines and they were harming them. I mean, technically Suetta's father was in one. So maybe that's the workaround there. And which is surprising because Delling himself is accepting it. So yeah, crazy episode. A lot to think about. Like I said before, Shadiq's work with Nika. What is she doing behind the scenes? Again, I think probably more than anything, it's probably Nika is working as an informant to Shadiq, because Shadiq's supposed to look into Suletta, and she's probably working as an informant. It also seemed like Pill Technologies and Elan were happy about what Miorine was saying. That was a curious thing as well. The moment that Miorine stepped on the stage and said, no, I have this big plan. I'm going to create this new technology company. We're going to absorb these two companies. And you can see the look on their faces. All the ladies of the Pill Technologies were smiling. They're like, oh, okay, that's exactly. I don't know that it was to their plan. I think their initial plan was just to keep themselves from being destroyed and to work with them. So I think them smiling is going, good. We can continue. This is better than what Vam Jiturk was offering us. Vam Jiturk and Vanelli, they wanted us to destroy that company and then dissolve everything that we were working on. Now they're saying, oh, so there's a chance that we can continue to do what we were doing. They can continue to work on that stuff. And I think that's why they were okay with it. And that's why they smiled. I also think this is a great episode in regards to, I'm going to be honest here. I'm getting tired of the whole Gundam. It's a Gundam. Ariel's a Gundam. We found it out again. I'm hoping this means that we can go away from that. I still think that the agreement and the idea of the gun format harming people is still going to exist in the story, but at least now, hopefully that means that everybody can accept that Ariel is a Gundam and they can move on. Now it can be about, can M&A, this Gun Arm Inc., can they figure out a way of not harming the pilot and being under the agreements, and maybe possibly here and there having to go, no, look, it's not harming the pilot. We're working under your agreements. We're a company now. Let us do what we do. But either way, the fact that Delling has accepted that is very curious. I don't know if he's doing that specifically because at the moment he wanted to see his daughter grow, or if he's technically okay with the idea of the gun arm as long as he's in control of it. And maybe the fact that his daughter's working on it, he has control over it. But again, it's very curious that this guy that seemed to have destroyed the Vanitas Institute and Ox Earth and everything from the prologue now suddenly is okay with his daughter running a company that will be essentially the remnants of that. Anyways, we'll see where it goes. Again, a lot to think about. Long impressions this episode, because again, this brought up a lot of question marks, and curious how it goes from here. But that's my thoughts on episode 7 of Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Did I miss something? I think I got everything. There's a lot to think about. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.